Thanks for staying with us. There's been a lot of reaction to the decision by U.S. President Donald Trump to issue an executive order against South Africa. Trump also announcing fresh tariff plans, adding to worries about global trade. Also, some in the business community are worried that the executive order pertaining to South Africa may just be the beginning of things to come, and the country should brace itself for the possibility of more of such. Let's now speak to Business Unity South Africa CEO Khulekani Mathe, who is joining us this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Mathe, and thank you so much for your time. So, what posture would you say BUSA is taking as the world watches every move by the U.S. president, which has also seen an executive order penned and signed against South Africa?
Good evening, Bongiwe, and to the viewers. Look, the past 2 weeks or so have been unprecedented in many ways for the global economy, because you've seen many of these executive orders which cover a wide range of things and affect a wide range of countries. As it relates to South Africa, we obviously were shocked by these executive orders. But we also understand that this is what the American president, some of the issues that he had campaigned on, and he has to be seen to be delivering on those issues for the constituency that voted him into office. As it relates to South Africa, obviously the United States is a large economy and a large trading partner of South Africa. In fact, the second biggest trading partner of South Africa. And so we would like to have a very good relationship with the United States. For obvious reasons, we obviously export goods to the U.S. As well as import goods from the U.S. We also have companies, U.S. companies that are invested in South Africa and vice versa. And so it does not do anybody any good to have these hostile relations. We do hope that the measures that were announced by President Ramaphosa, saying that he will be sending a delegation to different capitals to explain South Africa's stance, including the U.S., will go some way in making sure that South Africa is better understood, and that perhaps it may avert some of the worst that is likely to come.
But how does South Africa also begin to do this in a manner that does not risk its sovereignty, right? And also not have South Africa having to rescind on each and every single decision it takes just because maybe one country isn't happy, because you do have others who are saying that South Africa's sovereignty must be protected at all costs.
I think it is inconceivable that President Trump plans to conduct his presidency for the entire 4 years in this way. So clearly at some point things will settle. And so we do hope that when things settle, at least there will be a better understanding of where we are as a country, what we stand for, and the fact that actually everything, and I'm speaking in particular here, in relation to the Expropriation Act, which seemed to have been a trigger for all of this, that we actually, as South Africans, and certainly as the business community in South Africa, while we had some major concerns at the beginning of the law-making process of this legislation, over time, over a period of more than 10 years, we've managed to work through some really difficult parts of the legislation. Yes, there are some ambiguous sections of the legislation, but we take comfort in the safeguards that are there in the legislation that, for instance, make it almost impossible for any arbitrary land grabs. And so in many of the issues that have been cited in the executive order, we believe that there's a misunderstanding, and that when South Africa is understood, a different decision would be taken.
It's one thing, right, to have this misunderstanding play out in public, as you say, but at the same time, the misinformation, the concerns that have been raised, and now we're seeing this delegation. But one would ask, do you think that the South African delegation will be listened to?
Look, at the end of the day, as I've said, we don't believe that the American president intends to run the entire 4 years, his presidency over the entire 4 years by issuing executive orders and not checking facts, because it doesn't reflect well on the president either when he has to be shown to have acted with incomplete information. And so this is why we believe that things will settle at some point. It may not be now that the delegation sent by the president are listened to, but at least the facts will be available as reference. Yeah. And so we do think that engagement is the right way to go. It will serve us no good to simply do a tit for tat with an important and big economy as the United States.
So given the possibility, as you say, that it may not, things may not settle in the next couple of months, given the reality that it may be turbulent times potentially for some of the business, businesses that you represent under the umbrella, what then are you doing in terms of ensuring that you are also possibly looking at, should there be consequences in the future, they can be cushioned, the conversations that are taking place right now under your umbrella body?
So I think the big thing here is that we are in an economy that needs a lot of investment. As I have said, we have some 600 or thereabout companies, U.S. companies that are invested in South Africa. We would like many more such companies to come and invest in our economy. And so what this does is it at least leaves a degree of uncertainty, certainly from people who do not know South Africa very well. What we're doing as a business community is to also communicate how we see things here to our counterparts in the U.S. so that they do not only have the version that has been communicated through the executive orders signed by President Trump, but that they can hear from us and many other businesses that are in South Africa that, in fact, how we see things is that we have a piece of legislation that, while it might have some ambiguities, but it has safeguards, and therefore we believe there's no cause for concern. And hopefully that then, begins to reassure investors that South Africa is still open for business, because that's what we want. That's what is going to help us create jobs in this country, is if we get more and more investment.
And briefly then, the DA has taken it to court. Do you think it'll finally settle some of the ambiguity that you're talking about, as well as some of what has been described as vague?
Well, look, there isn't a single piece of legislation that is perfect, but in the process of implementation, there's always an opportunity for amendments to be effected to legislation. And so we hope that the government will take it upon itself to amend those aspects of the legislation that seems to cause consonance. And so I am not in a position to comment on the DA court challenge. I have not read the papers, but what I am saying is that we believe that this piece of legislation has safeguards, and where there are still challenges, hopefully over time there will be necessary amendments that address those ambiguities and discomforts.
All right, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mathe. Appreciate it. That was Business Unity South Africa CEO Khulekani Mathe.